Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Board Gaming Doctor. My name is Phil, and I'll be your board game doctor today. Every year, I try to do an Essen SPIEL preview list of games that I am anticipating, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But first, I wanted to recap what I talked about last year in my Essen 2024 video. I listed all of the Rosenberg games and 9 of the other games from other designers and publishers that I was most interested in. And I have to say that Essen 2024 was quite the year. When looking at some of these titles, I see a couple of interesting and prominent designers, Stefan Feld, Suhi as well, and the breakout Tomasz Holek as well. And I'm happy to say that I had quite a few of these games played. Not all of them, but most of them. So looking at this graphic that I've created, both comparing the games that I was anticipating from Rosenberg and non-Rosenberg designers. Anything in green, of course, is my rating after playing them. Some of them, most of them, I've played multiple times. I think everything that I have rated in green, I've played more than once at least, and then the others in red, of course, are no. Of note, Sunavalo is another game that's on the anticipated list, the preview list for this year. So more on that later. But I was not able to get to Beyond the Horizon, Rasafa, Tree Society, or Biome. But I did quite enjoy Civolution, SETI, and Lord of the Rings Duel for Middle Earth, and those games will be mentioned a little bit later on as well. Of course, I really enjoyed Black Forest and Newsfjord, and Rosenberg had quite a few games coming out and on this preview list this year for last year. And I thought Clash of Magical Schools was an interesting game that is a remake of an older game, and while I still have it and would enjoy playing it, it's understandably not my favorite go-to out of Rosenberg games. Tangram City was okay. Click-a-Tree is really good. That should be shipping to those who backed it, including myself, a little bit later this year or perhaps even early next year if things don't go according to plan. Label Legends, I have no idea where this game is. I tried to look at the publisher and I couldn't find any information about that. So that might be a game that won't really get any coverage, maybe on a more global setting. We'll see. And then more thoughts on Canal, of course. In contrast to last year, the Rosenberg specific titles for Essen 2025 are limited to these 4. The only game that I would say that is brand new is Garden Lake. And so we've covered this a little bit on the channel before. Some content creators have gotten the opportunity to play this and demonstrate this, but it's a polyomino game similar to Patchwork and some of the other smaller box Rosenberg games with, I think, the drafting mechanism from Patchwork, but the polyomino situation is a little different. And so I am excited to play this. I'm not, going to go too much out of my way to play it, but if the opportunity does come, I will try it out. And then, like we were talking about, Canal, which was originally Oranienburger Canal, which released about 2 years ago, it finally got a reprint. This was, I think, available for demo or something last year, and now it has a broader release to the world, including where I live. And so Canal will probably be pretty high on my list to try out, especially this newer version. Oranienburger Canal is one of my favorite games for sure. And so, let me know if you want some insights into the differences aside from those design, graphically and design wise, if you want more of a mechanical breakdown of the differences between the original Oranienburger Canal and the new Canal version, let me know. Click-a-Tree will be there present at Essen. I think there will be some copies available to purchase. And Dahlia's is also featured. I think this game is about a year old as well. nothing new here. It is a reskin of Bonanza with some beautiful flower art from Beth Sobel. So this year, I feel, has more of a prominence on expansions, at least for games that I'm interested in, rather than standalone games. And so you'll see later on in the episode, there aren't a lot of base games that I'm really interested in trying. I think most of the games that I have come to enjoy it and have tried and tested will have an expansion this year. So starting with Acceptance Letter for Civolution, it's a very small expansion that really gives you a few extra modularities to the start of the game to give you kind of a boost. The same can be said about space agencies for SETI, which I've kind of covered as well. There are some additional variations in both of these that add more nuance and variability to what you might be drafting from a market, etc. SETI does give you more of that prelude type of quick start, which is very much appropriate and needed, maybe, or gratefully accepted by most people who like that game, and I think I would enjoy that too. And I think Acceptance Letter kind of does the same thing with some of these extra credit modules or add-ons, essentially. It does introduce a level 4 module tile to attain, all the benefits that come from a level 4 um, input into your dashboard. So that's pretty interesting. Clans of Caledonia Industria was recently kickstarted. There probably will be some copies for sale. This is something that I've been following for the last year and a half, and would love an opportunity to try this out. I think if it's available on Tabletop Simulator, for example, I think I'll give it a go there to see if there, what kinds of additions that this expansion adds. I think it creates, from what I remember, it creates an extra board that you can interact with as well. And so I really need to play more Clans of Caledonia, and I think this will help me ease back into that. Duel for Middle Earth has a new expansion as in Allies as well. At the time of this recording, I don't know much about the content. The artwork looks pretty good, and this is a game that I've really enjoyed, more so than Seven Wonders Duel, mostly because of the theme, but some of the mechanisms also make that thematic integration feel at home, and it's something that I would rather return to in that realm of Seven Wonder Duel type of games, right? Underwater Cities is getting a data era. I think this is a pretty small expansion at the time of this recording. I don't know too much about it except for it's additional content for Underwater Cities, and that just having this available here makes me interested in playing it. Castle Combo getting a few extra cards as well in this new expansion. Very very fun small box game that I enjoyed from last year. And then the Two Towers for Lord of the Rings trick taking game is, I think, set to be demoed at Essen, and will be available for release later on this year. Once again, a game that I've enjoyed. I admit that I haven't played through all of the Fellowship of the Ring trick taking game scenarios and campaign through the book, right? But I love all things Lord of the Rings, and so I think this will be a fun addition, and maybe this will get me to finish the first one so I can take a look at the second one and enjoy it there too. So next I have a few honorable mentions, and so I feel like these are most likely the games that I am interested in, but probably won't either have a chance to play or won't have as much interest to play as some of those higher listed games. Kind of going off of the statistics, right, or the impressions that I got from what games I was able to play versus what I wasn't. Excluding all of the Rosenberg games, I got about half of the games or so, a little bit less played from the prior Essen. And so, considering that some of these games may or may not hit the table, depending on interest in myself or some of my new gaming group, as well as you. If you are interested in my thoughts in some of these games, let me know, and I'll try to accommodate that. But starting with Echoes of Time, this is a Cranio Creations game with Luciani as one of the designers. It's a card game that simulates the passage of time, very similar to how Ancient Knowledge did did so a couple of years ago when it was released. Some of the reviews have me a little concerned about how this game either presents or plays, so that has me struggling to garner the initial energy and hype that I had for this game. So we'll see if this reaches my table at some point. Epona as well is the new Suhi game that features an I cut you choose card game building up a stable and the employees that are taking care of the horses, and it's essentially tableau building to match things up appropriately to get points. I've it might not be heavy enough to be of interest to those around me to play it, but anything that is Suhi is something that I would be interested in, and so you know it may or may not happen. Fea's Swamp is from the designers of Terra Mystica. It is a remake of Kai Vai, which was a game from, I want to say, about 15 years ago. It looks like it has kind of that map interaction that you see from Terra Mystica. There is worker placement and building out of this centralized map, which is interesting. But the original game didn't get as big of a buzz back then. The ratings are a little low on the game, so that has me a little concerned for what Fea's Swamp is going to be like. If the changes are very beneficial and make this game feel more modern, perhaps, then this might be of more worth for me checking out. But yeah, it'll be on the short list at the very least for me to try to demo. Orloid is the most liked game. It was really close for me to put on the very top of the list because while it is a very beautiful looking Euro game, it very much looks like a standardized Euro game in terms of mechanisms. There are lots of tracks, which usually I stray away from as far as what is enjoyable to me in solving a Euro type puzzle. I probably will have a chance to play this just depending on the popularity that it is getting now, and based off of those around me. If they do produce this game, then it might be worth taking a look at. But there are some other games and themes that I'm a little bit more interested in at the moment. And then finally, Railway Boom. Not finally, there are a few other games on the honorable mentions list. This is a game by Hisashi Hayashi, who is the designer of Yokohama. And so I'm typically interested in what he has to produce. This looks like to be a train route building and delivery type of game. So I would be interested in seeing how this game might differ in terms of mechanisms compared to some of those other games. I wasn't super impressed, I should say, about how it looked from the images on Board Game Geek. And so once again, my interest is somewhat middling in terms of what this game has to offer, but I've heard some good things about it as well, so it'll stay on my short list for now. Next is Prestige. This is a Skellig game, the producer or the publisher of Click-a-Tree. It looks like to be a economic type of Euro game set in the Rococo period, and so I think I would really enjoy this game. I think it features more tableau building and perhaps some worker placement, but there aren't many images and reviews or information in general about this game, and so this is mostly based off of what the game kind of looks like on the cover and the images that are provided. And the same can be said about Ringyo. This is a Paverson game. The designers, or I should say publishers for games like Distilled, and this kind of looks like an environmental Euro style game, and so I'm interested to see what fleshes out from this as well. Of course, we got to include some Lacerdas, and Speakeasy is probably the next game that will come out from Lacerda. The Great Library was also mentioned, and I didn't put that here because I think Speakeasy will probably be the next one that I play, and I've heard really good things about this game, so I probably will enjoy it. And then just to add an older game, Arkwright, I've heard it's a very heavy economic Euro game that, based off of my group now, has a higher chance for being played, whether it's this version or an earlier version of the game. I'm interested to at least experience it to see if it is a fun game for me. So coming down the home stretch, these four games are probably the ones that I would seek out the most to play. Starting at the very far right, actually, Sunavalo, which was on my list last year, is a two-player card game from Oda, who co-designed La Granja as well as Planta Nubo with Rosenberg. Now, Planta Nubo itself, I've reviewed it, of course. I owned it and sold it because I felt like it wasn't, it was so intricate in its design that I felt like it would be a little too hard for me to really retain the rules and be enjoyable enough to bring out again and again. But I think Sunavalo, in addition to sharing some of the theme of Planta Nubo, I think the two-player card game aspect, similar to a game like Beer and Bread, perhaps would make this game more engaging and rememberable, I guess, for me. So I'm still excited to try this out, and I will try to go out of my way to play it. It picked up by Capstone Games as well, so it should be relatively easy to obtain a copy physically if need be. Forestry has been talked a lot. I've seen a lot of content creators say that this is a fantastic Euro. It's an environmental type of game with dual worker placement. You have two different types of workers that you're putting on the board that do various different things and interact with the worker placement in different ways as well. It's very economic. It's a good theme. Promotes environmental safety and um, things like that. So I'm happy to try to find that as well. Recall is it's kind of like a Revive sequel. Some things about it, I think some of the mechanisms I think are more centralized around the main board with exploration, civilization building. There is Tableau development as well, but I think it is going to be hopefully less track heavy like Revive was. I really like Revive, but I'm hoping that Recall kind of features some of those mechanisms that I prefer more. And the thing that really stood out to me is that you kind of create an asymmetric civilization for yourself, but you can also upload that digitally. And I'm not 100% sure how they're going to do this, but with if you do utilize the digital implementation into it, then you can discover old civilizations, which are civilizations that other people have put together to make each game feel different. So I think it's a really novel way to create replayability, and hopefully that's fun. And then finally, Jisogi is or Anime Studio Tycoon is an anime business simulator. So I love the theme already, and I think after reading through the rulebook, it really tries to stay true to what it feels like to run an anime studio. I have learned this game. I am playing it, so expect a review soon. But I'm hoping that this game offers an experience that is both thematic as well as economic and more Euro style. It sounds like it's a tight game. You do have to deal with loans and pay those back. I'm usually a fan of those. In addition to the stunning artwork that I've seen for this game, I think it's visually very, very appealing. So I am excited to really see if this game holds some legs, for me to enjoy after repeated plays. First impressions will be on the horizon. So you have these four games. You have some of the other games that may or may not get played, and of course the expansions to games that I know I already love. That kind of is the theme for Essen 2025 for me. So an interesting year, not very heavy with Rosenberg games as well, at least not that are new to me. And so hopefully next year will feature a lot of new content that will be very anticipated from my end. But I'm happy to explore and be surprised by some of these titles. So those are my thoughts on Essen this year. Let me know what you think and if you're excited or not. And yeah, thank you for scheduling an appointment with me, and I'll catch you on the next one. Take care.